Hey readers, we are back to do our next read aloud. As you can tell, I'm really excited because I'm very much enjoying this book. So let's get started in the City of Ember again. We are currently at chapter 5. As you recall, when we ended yesterday, Lena had been at the greenhouse by Clary and had run into this guy who tried to go beyond. And so they kind of had a conversation about what they thought was out there. So when we left, she had just left the greenhouse. So, chapter 5, on Night Street. Granny's mind was getting more and more muddled. Lena would come home in the evenings and find her rifling through the kitchen cupboards, surrounded by cans and jars with their lids off, or tearing the covers off her bed and trying to lift up the mattress with her skinny arms. It was an important thing, she would say, the thing that was lost. But if you don't know what it is, said Lena, how will you know when you've found it? Granny didn't try to answer this question. She just flapped her hands at Lena and said, "Never mind, never mind, never mind," and kept on searching. These days, Mrs. Murdo spent a great deal of time sitting by their window rather than her own. She would tell Granny she was just coming to keep her company. "I don't want her to keep me company," Granny complained to Lena, and Lena said, "Maybe she's lonely, Granny. Let her come." Lena rather liked having Mrs. Murdo around. It was a bit like having a mother there. She wasn't anything like Lena's own mother, who had been a dreamy, absent-minded sort of person. Mrs. Murdo was mother-like in quite a different way. She made sure they all ate a good breakfast in the morning, usually potatoes with mushroom gravy and beet tea. She lined up the vitamin pills by each person's plate and made sure they were swallowed. When Mrs. Murdo was there, shoes got picked up and put away, spills were wiped off the furniture, and Poppy always had on clean clothes. Lena could relax when Mrs. Murdo was around. She knew things were taken care of. Every week, Lena, like all workers between age 12 and age 15, had Thursday off. One Thursday, as she was standing in line at the Garn Square Market, hoping to get a bag of turnips for stew that night, she overheard a startling conversation between two people standing behind her. "What I wanted," said one voice, "was some paint for my front door. It hasn't been painted for years. It's gray and peeling, horrible. I heard a store over on Night Street had some. I was hoping for blue." "Blue would be nice," said the other voice wistfully. "But when I got there," the first voice continued, "the man said he had no paint, never had. Disagreeable man. All he had were a few colored pencils." Colored pencils. Lena had not seen colored pencils in any store for ages. Once she'd had 2 red ones, a blue one, and a brown one. She'd used these for her drawing until they were stubs too small to hold. Now she had only one plain pencil left, and it was rapidly growing shorter. She longed to have colored pencils for her pictures of the imaginary city. She had a feeling it was a colorful place, though she didn't know what its colors might be. There were other things, of course, on which her money would be better spent. Granny's only coat was full of holes and coming apart at the seams. But Granny rarely went out, Lena told herself. She was either at home or in her yarn shop. She didn't really need a new coat, did she? Besides, how much could a few pencils cost? She could probably get a coat for Granny and some pencils. So that afternoon she set out for Night Street. She took Poppy with her. Poppy had learned how to ride piggyback. She wrapped her legs around Lena's waist and gripped Lena's throat with her small, strong fingers. On Budlow Street, people were standing in long lines with their bundles of laundry at the washing stations. The washers stirred the clothes in the washing machines with long poles. In days past, the machines themselves had whirled the clothes around, but not one of them worked anymore. Lena turned up Hafter Street, where the 4 street lamps were still out and a building crew was repairing a partly collapsed roof. Orley Gordon called out to her from high on a ladder, and Lena looked up and waved. Farther on, she passed a woman with bits of rope and string for sale, and a man pulling a cart full of carrots and beets to the grocery stores. At the corner, a cluster of little children played catch with a rag ball. The streets were alive with people today. Moving fast, Lena threaded her way among them. But as she went into Otterwill Street, she saw something that made her slow down. A man was standing on the steps of the gathering hall, shouting and howling, and a crowd of people had gathered around him. Lena went closer, and when she saw who it was, her insides gave a lurch. It was Sadge Morrell. His arms flailed wildly, and his eyes were stretched wide open. In a high, rapid voice, he wailed out a stream of words. "I have been to the unknown regions," he cried. "There is nothing there. Did you think something out there might save us? Ha! There's only darkness and monsters, darkness and terrible deep holes, darkness forever. The rats are the size of houses, the rocks are sharp as knives. The darkness sucks your breath out. No hope for us out there. Oh no, no hope, no hope." He went on like this for a few minutes and then crumpled to the ground. The people watching him looked at each other and shook their heads. "Gone mad," Lena heard someone say. "Yes, completely," said someone else. Suddenly, Sadge sprang up again and resumed his terrible shouting. The crowd stepped back. Some of them hurried away. A few of them approached Sadge, speaking in calming voices. They took him by the arms and led him, still shouting, down the steps. "Who dat? Who dat?" said Poppy in her small, piercing voice. Lena turned away from the miserable spectacle. "Hush, Poppy," she said. "It's a poor, sad man. He doesn't feel good. We mustn't stare." She headed toward Knight Street, which ran along Greengate Square. There, a stringy-haired man sat cross-legged on the ground playing a flute made out of a drain pipe, and 5 or 6 believers circled him, clapping and singing. "Soon, soon, coming soon," they sang. What's coming soon? Lena wondered, but she didn't stop to ask. 2 blocks beyond, she came to a store that had no sign in its window. This must be the one, she thought. At first it looked closed. Its window was dark, but the door opened when she pushed on it, and a bell attached to its doorknob clanked. From the back room came a black-haired man with big teeth and a long neck. "Yes?" he said. Lena recognized him. He was the one who'd given her the message for the mayor on her very first day of work. His name was Hooper. No, Looper, that was it. "Do you have pencils for sale?" she asked. It seemed doubtful. The shop's shelves were empty except for a few stacks of used paper. Poppy squirmed on Lena's back and whimpered a little. "Sometimes," said Looper. Poppy's whimper became a wail. "All right, you can get down," Lena said to her. She set her on the floor, where she tottered about unsteadily. "What I'd like to see," said Lena, "are your colored pencils, if you have any." "We have a few," said Looper. "They are somewhat expensive." He smiled, showing his pushy teeth. Could I see them? Said Lena. He went into the back room and returned a moment later, carrying a small box, which he set down on the counter. He took the lid off. Lena bent forward to look. Inside the box were at least a dozen colored pencils. Red, green, blue, yellow, purple, orange. They had never even been sharpened. Their ends were flat. They had erasers. Lena's heart gave a few fast beats. How much are they? She said. Probably too much for you, the man said. Probably not, said Lena. I have a job. Good, good, the man said, smiling again. No need to take offense. He picked up the yellow pencil and twirled it between his fingers. Each pencil, he said, $5. $5? For 7 you could buy a coat. It would be an old patched coat, but still warm. That's too much, Lena said. He shrugged and began to put the lid back on the box. But maybe, Lena's thoughts raced. Let me look at them again. Once more the man lifted the lid, and Lena bent over the pencils. She picked one up. It was painted a deep, clear blue, and on its flat top was the blue dot of the lead. The pink eraser was held on by a shiny metal collar. So beautiful. I could buy just one, Lena thought. Then I could save a little more and buy a coat for Granny next month. Make up your mind, said the man. I have other customers who are interested if you aren't. All right, I'll take one. No, wait. It was like hunger, what she felt. It was the same as when her hand sometimes seemed to reach out by itself to grab a piece of food. It was too strong to resist. I'll take 2, she said, and a faint, dazzly feeling came over her at the thought of what she was doing. All right, readers, that is where we were going to end for today. Make sure that you go back into Canvas. We've changed it. It's now an assignment instead of a discussion question. So you'll need to make sure to answer that. And please make sure to answer all parts of the question included in order to get it complete. All right, have a great rest of your day.